I'm Charles Galda, your host for Vision New England's Church in Action program. This week, we're talking about equipping followers of Jesus with practical training to transform their community. It's part of a new Master of Arts being provided by Gordon College, which has a ton of experience, credibility, and trust with leaders across New England, and beyond that. And we're talking with Sharon Ketcham. Sharon is the Dean of Gordon College's School of Ministry, Theology, and Biblical Studies, and a thought leader in this space. Sharon, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Charles. I'm delighted to be with you.
Maybe for folks who don't know you, would you give us a little bit of your bio and how you came to be at Gordon College?
Sure. I have, in my background, I've lived in lots of places. So if people ask me where I'm from, I never really have a direct answer. I've lived in New Hampshire and Texas and many years in Germany and Massachusetts and Tennessee. And amid all of that, I kept hearing God's call in my life to pay attention to how people might come to know Jesus Christ in a more deep and profound way in their life. And when I was young, maybe about junior in high school, I started to sense a call to ministry and explored that by studying ministry at Gordon College. And then graduated and went to work for a Presbyterian church in Knoxville, Tennessee. Go volunteers if anyone's listening, that small crowd in New England out there. Here we are. And you'll still see an orange tea on our family cars from that time. And then ended up coming back here after studying at Gordon Conwell, and then here at the college while working on my PhD at Boston College, an interdisciplinary PhD in theology and education. And now I've been at Gordon for 20 years, living in New England, longest place I've ever lived, and where we call home.
Well, we're glad you do. And so now maybe a little bit kind of same thing, a little bit about Gordon College. And folks will certainly know of it, but I'm sure there's a lot we don't know.
Sure. Gordon is located in Wenham, Massachusetts, on the North Shore of Boston. We have around 1,300 undergrads and 300 graduate students. I love telling the story of Gordon. 1889 began as a missionary training institute, and as a school, we've pivoted multiple times along our journey. So, in recent years, we are a Christian liberal arts college, and we described ourselves as career focused academic programs that are situated within this broad liberal arts education. Gordon educates by interweaving faith, learning, and living. That is the core of who we are. So, faith isn't something that sits just in our minds or in our hearts, but in the whole of our lives together. So that interweaving of faith, learning, and living becomes the bedrock of our education and thinking about how we develop in people imagination for what they can contribute to the world and those creative contributions that match with God's purposes, which we define as shalom.
Mm. And that's great. And as somebody who is invested heavily in Gordon College through the tuition of two children,
Well done.
I would also add on to it things that were meaningful to us is not sending our kids to a secular school where suddenly all the boundaries were removed and everything we told them was wrong. We sent them to a school where the boundaries were moved and their faith life was reinforced. We also appreciated how the interest that I've never seen at other schools, but the interest that professors take in the lives of the students, which was hugely impactful for both our kids, and the internships they both got led to their jobs, both of our
Right?
kids out of school.
Ye-
So we love what Gordon College is doing. So thank you for your ministry there.
Yeah, wonderful. It's great to hear that. Those stories matter.
Oh yeah, completely. The Fill us in a bit more about the School of Ministry and Theology. So we're kind of narrowing the funnel now.
Yeah.
So to School of Ministry, Theology, and Biblical Studies that you lead.
Yes, I would love to. We have the privilege every day of working with students who want to make a difference for Jesus Christ in the world. It's interesting to hear them talk about the deep divides and the complexities of our world and the ways in which we can talk about those things alongside and within our the program that they're involved in. So we layer our programs with scholarship and practical skills that provide space in the classroom for them to learn from others. It's a big piece of a Gordon education. You don't get a group of people together and think that we're all the same, but in fact, we find that the diversity of Christianity represented at the college is a way that helps us navigate the breadth of New England and all the different types of Christians that we run into. So they get to experience that in the classroom, learning to listen, learning to engage, learning how to dialogue in ways that focus on how Christians can serve God and neighbor together. We have 8 faculty members that cross in 3 different areas. So those that are educated in ministry, those educated in theology and biblical studies. And we have programs in each of those areas as well.
Now, will most kids who go through that that school, that part of Gordon, will most of them end up as pastors, or do they wind up in all different walks of life?
All different walks of life, and the way that ministry is defined isn't just a narrow pathway to, becoming a pastor of a church, but it's ministry that's working, in the Boys and Girls Club, and the ways in which they care and minister in the name of Jesus Christ in schools, and in different, types of ministries, as well as more traditional ministry routes.
Yeah, because there is the clear point. We're all in ministry. It's just a question of whether we get paid to do that or something else while we're doing it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Charles. And as we think about churches in New England and the shifting tide of what ministry is going to look like in the next 10 years, we would say to them in class, you might end up with a job that pays for you to pay your rent, and you might be a volunteer or a leader in your church or in a ministry setting. So they're equipped so that they can support themselves as well as carry out a ministry calling.
Yeah, I'm working on a sermon message that it's actually been delayed, so I don't know what I'm going to do. But one of my points in that is um, your job is ministry.
Right.
Now, God might have arranged for your local school system to pay you to do something else,
That's exactly right.
and your company may be paying you to do systems or finance.
Yeah.
But your job is ministry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and our students that graduate out of our program, whether it's biblical studies, ministry, or theology, they have different types of ways in which they've been equipped to vocationally carry out the ministry of Jesus Christ. And many will do that in formal roles as well.
Now you mentioned that ministry is changing, and these young people are going to experience that in a big way. But for those of us New England Christians who are not mad for change, even just being human, and now we've compounded it, why does it have to change? What's wrong with the way we've been doing ministry for years?
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to say anything is wrong with the way we've been doing ministry, but the world around us is changing. So you can think about the loss of what we know clearly. I don't even like to list the bad news because it's always like right in our face, right? But the loss over decades in church attendance,
Hmm.
the distrust, increasingly, we see the distrust from rising generations in institutions broadly, and that includes the church. Um, so there's changing ways in which we think. You might be interested in reading work by even Charles Taylor, thinking about how we think about the ways we encounter or have spiritual experiences in the world is different than it was at a different time when we live in this secular age in which we're in. So the world is just, it's different. And the Church of Jesus Christ has always responded to that difference, and adapted ministries along the way. And we're just at one of those moments now, too.
And I'll say this for you, I know, but I know you and I know Gordon College well enough. So it's not about changing the gospel.
Right.
It's about the methods we use to advance the gospel that
Mhm.
needs to change, right?
Yes, and who gets to have voice in both of those things? That's like the number one thing, I wanna talk about with rising generations is how do they have voice? How do we shift our posture from needing to fix them, that something's wrong with them, instead to be able to better listen to them, pay attention to how Christ is moving and working in their lives, and then our job is to come alongside and scaffold them. And their experience with resources, opportunities. And I think that's probably a main challenge before a more traditional church today is really shifting that posture.
Yeah, because if my generation, and I'm older than you, if my generation thinks we know how to do the ministry in this generation,
Yeah.
we're crazy because we don't even understand this generation,
Yeah.
most of us.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an author, her name is Kenda Creasy Dean, and she writes about the natural connection between the passions of young people and the wisdom and experience of older people.
Mm.
So, what's the way in which we learn how from an older generation to listen better, which is about asking better questions, putting ourselves in a posture of being able to receive new ideas, and I can say that, and all of us know how challenging that is to put into practice, and we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, I know a pastor down in Connecticut. He's retired, but he used to have a picture in his office of a bridge down someplace in Central America. I don't remember where. And it was a bridge that connected two mountains with a valley in between it.
Yeah.
And the rains and floods had come through one year and multiple years and erased the mountains.
Yes.
And so, but the bridge is still standing there exactly the way it was before the floods.
Yes.
And he would use that as the analogy of this is the way the church is sometimes. Everything around us has changed, and we're still doing it this way, and we're irrelevant.
Yeah, and the program-based model, which has been really the lifeline of the church for the past 30 years,
Mm.
and maybe longer, I think that's what a little bit of the shift that's happening, along the way, is how do we pay attention to different approaches and models of ministry?
Your point on institutions is interesting. It's not just young people who've lost interest, who've lost trust in institutions. We all have, and some would say for a lot of good reasons. But it creates a huge challenge for the church. And is that what you see? Because we've seen some data showing that that denominations continue to shrink, mainline more than evangelical, but not just mainline.
That's right.
But non-denominational churches seem to be having real traction in terms of attendance and growth. They're not challenged, but do you think that's at the root of it, or do you think there's some other things in play?
Um, I think that the adaption by some non-denominational churches I think it's easier for non-denominational churches to adapt than it is for because they're kind of built on a model of paying attention to the needs of the people rather than their structure. Neither right nor wrong. It's just the evolution of how they've been built. And so I think there could be some more flexibility for there to be some adapting. And yet, a lot of non-denominational churches are succeeding still because they're of more resources and being strong program-driven churches. But the research also demonstrates the drop and decline for rising generations for them as well.
Hmm.
There's just a different approach to faith and how they're encountering Jesus for rising generations.
Yeah, and I think one thing I want to draw out is that again, I'm talking more to my generation,
Yeah,
is that there's things we see in young people that we view as lack of commitment, lack of seriousness, lack of faith. And but what we really, and what I've learned from you is it's actually it just looks different. They're just not
that's
doing it the
exactly
way
right.
we did it. It's
Yeah.
not there. It just doesn't look the same.
Yeah, I there's an author that talks uses the phrase, "They are believing differently." So when I say that, most people think of that as doctrinal content. That's actually not what that means. It means their orientation to belief is different. How they're approaching faith, has a different piece to it. There's an expectation and longing and spiritual curiosity to encounter God in fresh and new ways. They're willing to try on things, see if something works, learn from their peers. I mean, resourcing is really significant. And part of what we've been leaning into here at Gordon College is they're already self-resourcing. Here we are doing all our programs, and they're looking for God everywhere. And what does that look like in order to care for and foster a sense of discipleship and spiritual formation among them?
And this gets at what you were talking about earlier, I think, is that there's great things in that, and there's real problems in that when it's not done well. And this is where you couple what they have in their lives and the world they're dealing with, and some wisdom of older folks. Is that fair?
Correct. All of our models and approaches of faith have great opportunities and great challenges. You're exactly right.
And in fairness, when we think about some of our older generations, we've been content with just doing church the
Mhm.
way we do church.
Yeah.
And some in some of our traditions and some of our experiencing, not knowing there is a richer, deeper relationship with Jesus that we can have, and so are content with just doing church. And what I see in some of the numbers, the way I interpret them, is young people are saying, "Yeah, that doesn't work for me."
Right.
Right?
Right, right. It's this language of spiritual curiosity, and it doesn't have to be in a building, right? I
Yeah,
can encounter God in nature. I can encounter God, and I want to say that generously. Like
yeah,
I can sense the vastness of God proclaiming through the created order.
yeah.
I can sense in my friends hurt and pain when we sit together and we struggle through life's challenges. That's where the Spirit of God meets us.
Mm,
So really acknowledging these places where, things I care about in the world that we're in that feel broken, that I'm going to commit my life to this, Christ is there moving.
yeah.
So all these things is not just institution.
And you and I are both friends with Brittany Feldot, and I remember her making a
Yeah.
point in something which we were doing, where she said, if you think this new generation is going off the rails and is not good and is not committed and does not care about Jesus and all, said you need to talk to your grandchildren,
Yeah.
right? Because and she was saying talk to grandparents about their grandchildren because they think they're wonderful, and there's a lot going on there. It may not always be our grandchildren or
It might
our
not
children,
be.
but there
Right.
are, right?
Right.
And that's a bit of an indictment of for our generation of we've not been terribly successful at passing our faith on to our children in big numbers.
Right. Which has more to do, I always want to be generous at that moment, which has more to do with us. It's also the changing world in which we live. So
Yeah.
here at Gordon, we are committed to saying this: Christ is moving among rising generations for such a time as this, from Esther, in New England and beyond. And when we listen and watch for how Christ is moving, then we can do a better job at scaffolding with our wisdom and our experiences and our resources where there's evidence of Christ's movement.
And I should add to the statement I just made because I've had a pastor say it to me, but we also need to be forgiving and graceful with ourselves
Yes,
because most of us were doing the best we could. We just didn't know what to do and didn't know there were things we could be doing that would have been helpful.
you're exactly
And
right.
so we need to be careful on that about it. My Irish Catholic guilt can come through a little bit more than, than it should. And I
Yeah.
don't mean to project it on others.
No, it's very true. It's complicated,
Yeah.
and trying to share faith with kids and grandkids has places where we want to lament, and we probably should lament, and places where there's so many opportunities still to have conversations and taking that same posture. How is the Spirit moving in their life in ways that we can't even imagine?
And you make such a good point on the listening because the evangelical model, even within our families, of the last decades, has not been a listening model. It's been a
That's right.
telling model,
Yes.
and we're
Yes.
not going to we and so telling this generation doesn't work. Listening is a big gateway, right?
Yeah, and really listening.
Yeah,
I mean, that's so we've done some training and a coaching mindset here at Gordon because that's actually learning how to stop talking because really we listen in order to talk. How is it that we ask the right questions? Because our goal is to discern how is Christ moving in them,
yeah, yeah.
and
And
help him discern that too.
yes, great point. And so you guys have launched a new program,
Yes.
Master of Arts in Community Transformation. Tell us more about that.
Oh, I'd love to. So we're interested in launching this program because we want to help mobilize people who want to bring change to their community. And when I say community, it might be their neighborhood, their church, their nonprofit, but people who imagine in their space that they want to lead some type of change. And we hear this desire in Boston, in rural Maine, in suburban Connecticut. So our response is to build this masters that would prepare people to interpret the values and practices of the kingdom within and with their neighborhood, their nonprofit, or their church.
Mm,
So the name, Masters of Arts in Community Transformation, that name in and of itself is a little interesting because we've moved out of the typical discipline centric names, like just calling it a master's of theology or theological studies, because we want to tell people that the program is shaped for what we want the outcomes to be, to help empower them in their current vocation, or if they want to make a career change in order to mobilize for change for the kingdom.
Yeah. And what I love about this is I do know some pastors who are great at change management, but the vast majority really struggle with it, and it's not something we equip you with in seminary or the kind of traditional training place. So who's the audience for this? And is it pastors? Is it, I heard maybe broader, but is it younger people, you think, or is it mid-career?
Yes, the answer is yes. But we're those people, we're interested in those who want to figure out a way to mobilize change for the kingdom.
Hmm.
um, so that the education itself isn't the typical kind of separation of theory and practice, but those who are interested that their assignments in a course would be things that help them think about the New Testament in interpretation in their community, Old Testament interpretation with their community,
Hmm.
learning about Christian history in such a way that it helps them engage in topics within their current ministry environment. So
And,
yes, it could be someone in a layperson in the pew who wants to increase their capacity to contribute, a pastor or someone working in a nonprofit.
and so I'm going to hear some objections or concerns for people who are hearing this saying, that sounds interesting, but, and so too expensive. And I can't go live at Gordon for 2 years. And those are the first two that come to mind. What would you say?
Well, first of all, it's asynchronous. That's a fancy word of saying you do it online, all the material online at your time when it fits into your schedule. And alongside that, it's across a 2 year span. If you did it in 2 years, you could also do it in 3 years. You'd also have 4 times where you would be with a cohort of other students, and they would meet on campus 4 times. So I'm sorry, on campus 3 times for a 4 day intensive where you get to worship together, get to learn together, and build some relationships across a whole span of different Christian traditions. There's also a capstone trip where you're going to be able to have the opportunity to go to Italy or Greece or Turkey or Israel and study in the land where scripture was written and be able to engage in current topics. So then it's the right question about price. We're trying something new. And in this program, we have what's called all-inclusive pricing. So your tuition, your housing during the intensives, all your food during the intensives, and your capstone trip are all included in what you pay for the program itself.
Okay. And so just want to go back to the timing. So I don't have to complete it in 2 years. And
No.
and when I sign up for this class, I'm not signing up to do it from Wednesday night from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I've got reading assignments, I've got
Yes.
watching assignments that
Yes.
I can do at my own pace. And then I've got the intensives. That's a place where I do block some days on my calendar to be at Gordon.
Yes, exactly, because theological education needs some human contact with one another. And that human contact that we have with the people in our cohort will just build and deepen the interactions that we can have with one another online. We also have some really amazing learning designers here at Gordon. So you're not just going to listen to someone talk, but we're taking the best of what we know about how people learn in online education and creating animations, and different ways in which people can engage with course content.
It sounds great, Sharon. What am I not asking you about that's important? What did I miss?
Yeah, it's important to understand that the vision of people who want to be part of something like this should join this program because they want to interpret the practices and values of the kingdom of God right where they are. That's what we mean about mobilizing change, and that you can take an theological education and build it in such a way that people have the capacity of bringing change even with while completing their coursework.
That's great. Where can folks go to learn more?
Yeah. So go to gordon.edu, theology, graduate theology. And you could also contact our person who's in charge of this. His name is Jason Myers, jason.myers@gordon.edu.
Terrific. And if anybody has trouble, just reach out to Vision New England. We'll get you connected too. Sharon, thank you so much, not just for taking time today. We appreciate that for sure, but for this really pioneering program that's so needed to help the church adapt to what we need to be to advance the kingdom in New England and, of course, beyond New England, because it's not just New England folks, I know, but that's all I care about, as you know. And
Amen, Charles.
thank you for your ministry at Gordon College and everything else you do. Really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Right back at you for all the ways in which you're inspiring our leadership.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
All right, Charles. Thank you.
This program is created by Vision New England, which helps the church work in unity to make disciples, do justice, and share Jesus, to accelerate evangelism so that New England will be transformed. You can find additional resources and partner in our mission at visionnew.org. This program is brought to you by our friends at the Palau Association, who are dedicated to proclaiming the good news, uniting the church, and impacting cities worldwide. Join us next Sunday at 2 p.m. on Life Changing Radio. Thanks so much, and God bless you.
At Leadership Transformations, we believe that when you have the right resources to help you slow down and experience a deep and refreshing connection to God, you can become the discerning leader you know you are created to be. Friends, Steve Macchia here, and I have a free gift for your soul. It's called Pathways. Pathways is our weekly email aimed at offering you soul-nourishing content for the journey. It contains readings, prayers, spiritual practices, a link to the Discerning Leader podcast, as well as information about all of our upcoming soul care retreats, workshops, and online offerings. So head on over to leadershiptransformations.org today and sign up for this free resource. It will help you slow down and be more. God bless you, friends.